Welcome to the 12 Days of Christmas. My name is Tammy, and today we are going to talk about what I learned about myself as a reader in 2024 and my favorite books of the year. And this has become one of my favorite videos of the year. It's one of those, uniquely personal videos that no two readers will ever have the same viewpoints and opinions, and none of it will be the same. And I really like that. So, before I talk about the favorite books of the year, let's talk about what I learned about myself as a reader this year. And I do talk about this briefly in the 2025 roadmap, and I'm not sure where this video is falling in comparison to the roadmap, so we're going to assume that I haven't talked about it yet. When 2024 rolled around, and as I did the roadmap for it at the end of 2023, I expected 2024 to be a year in which I, read some of the bigger books on my shelves, I knocked them out, and all of those good intentions somehow very quickly flew out the window. And it led me, as the year progressed, to a very important realization. And this isn't going to come as a surprise to any of you. It really wasn't a surprise to me either. However, I do not like A, short books, and B, books with very spotty, lackluster character development. And that is what I'm finding in a lot of Christian fiction, which is very plug and play. You pretty much know what you're getting in every Christian fiction book that you pick up. It may vary as to setting and characters, but you're going to get a female character that is the light that leads others to faith. That there's going to be a romance, there's going to be a happily ever after, and they're really not going to have any tragedies in their life. And if there are tragedies, they're going to be very lightly touched upon. And hi, can you lay down, please? Can you lay down, please? That's a good girl. Okay, no, you need to settle. No, settle. And as the year progressed, my patience with those type of characters just became slimmer and slimmer. And you will notice when we talk about my favorites of the year, there is a common theme that, with the exception of one book, romance is not a key component in any of them. And in the book in which romance, it's sort of a component of two others of them, but in the one I'm talking about specifically, it is a romance. It is billed as a contemporary romance, but I will tell you that character has depth. She talks about her adversities in life, and it isn't a glossed over, it all happens off page and never shall we speak of it in any depth kind of thing. And that realization, I shouldn't say realization, that crystallization of what I've always known at some very deeper level has really, changed in the kind of books I'm, picking up from library, or I'm buying when they're on sale, or that I'm trying to focus off of my shelves as 2025 begins. Hello, my beautiful girl. I want character depth. I want, fiction and stories and characters that have adversity and who don't gloss over the struggles in life, and who calm down, who are three-dimensional. Life is not easy for anybody. We all have personal struggles. We all have things we, deal with that, our next door neighbors may not. And this worldview that, I don't even want to say worldview, that's wrong. This depiction that struggle is not a normal part of life, it's just very odd, and I need more. So that is one thing I learned in 2024. Also in 2024, I learned that I, as a reader, hang on. Okay, Fireball's on my lap. If you hear her breathing, I apologize. My perpetually hot dog. Why don't you go outside and play? Squirrels. Go get the squirrels. So, the last big, quote-unquote, revelation or life lesson from 2024. There's a whole whopping 2 in this year's video. Is that I need to change the scope of my reading. I am veering away from generic Christian fiction. I have it on my shelves. I will read what is on my shelf. If something, sparks my interest, and then I will read it. But in particular, I am not reading generic Christian fiction anymore. It is too samey, it is too trite, and I don't know anything about the faith of the authors, and I do not trust, non-declared faith. My focus is switching to Catholic fiction. I'm doing the Discover Catholic Fiction Challenge in 2025. I'm putting out genre videos for it. I have a bunch of it on my shelves to read, and I'm looking forward to that. I understand that faith. I am a Catholic. I would like to read Catholic fiction. I would like to read the fiction of authors I know are Catholic. So, and I think that's fine. And if that upsets some of you, I apologize, but I am not saying anything against the generic Catholic fiction or the generic Christian fiction. It just doesn't have a place at the top of my reading preferences. I am also in 25 reading more classics than I have been in the last couple of decades. I'm going to get more in-depth characters. I'm going to get more in-depth stories. And there's just books that some of y'all have been reading that I am intrigued by and I need to know. And there is a Bookmas video coming out about books that sparked my intellectual curiosity in 2024. I want to read those books. I want to know why, Jane Austen spent so much time in Northanger Abbey poking fun at the mysteries of Udolpho. What was that satire all about? I need to know. There were books mentioned in Little Women that I had never heard of, but were hugely popular at the time. Why? What? So, that is what I learned about myself as a reader in 2024. And so, the part you're probably all waiting for, what were my favorite books of 2024 as of this filming, which is the 10th of December. So it is possible in the last, 3.5 weeks of December that something else is going to sneak onto this list, but probably not. So, I'm going to talk about 3 together. They are not related. They are all different from one another. And yet they all belong together. And that is this set of books. One is a nonfiction, one is historical fiction, one can be classified as historical fiction, although I remember it, so I'm going to classify it as contemporary. Huh, Fireball? Yeah, your mama's girl. So let's do the nonfiction first. That would be Live Not by Lies by Rod Dreher. This is a manual for Christian dissidents, and it is heavily tabbed. And this is an account of the effects of communism on the people that live under it. It is first-hand memories of what life was like, and it's a roadmap of how to survive it, how to counteract it, and it's a wake-up call that we're already living under a lot of totalitarianism, even here in the United States. And this book was so impactful for me that I want to read his entire back catalog. And it is rare for me to say that about a nonfiction author. In fact, I cannot think of another time in which I've ever said that about a nonfiction author. But it's absolutely true in this case. Okay, there goes Fireball. And that brings us to the 2 fiction books that are related to Live Not by Lies. And I'm going to do them in reading order. First up would be Miss Graham's Cold War Cookbook by Celia Reese. This is set in the beginning of the Cold War in Germany. And I said this at the time I reviewed it. This is not an easy read. This is a very I am going to say emotional, and I don't mean emotional in the sense of it is a sappy romance and, you know, it tugs at your heartstrings. It's emotional in the sense that it is a very stark reminder of what was wrought by World War II and the immediate suffering after peace had been declared and winter hits. That book I think I read it in March, has not left me since. And I don't think it's going to anytime soon. It is a book I recommend everybody to read, even when you get to the very difficult parts of that book. It is not one fireball to set aside because of the difficult content. It is one you really need to push through the difficult content to get to the point of the story, and there is a definite point. And it just sticks with you. And that led me to the end of the Cold War in fiction. And this was a book club choice, and I think it was July. That is I Must Betray You by Ruta Sepetys. And for some reason her books get classified as middle grade, and I don't think that's appropriate. This takes place in Romania. It is the end of the Ceausescu regime in Romania, and this book, I know many of you will not recall the events of this book. It takes place at the Christmas of '89. I remember it distinctly. I was in college. I had a friend who was specializing in Romanian politics. And yes, I remember this very, very, very distinctly. And there are not a lot of punches pulled in this book. And you will never look at a banana again and take it for granted. And you will... it's a life-changing book. And the three books together are just a very juxtaposed, stark reminder that everything we take for granted is not something we should ever take for granted. Okay, next up are two classics. I read these in October, and they both sent me down the Tammy Read More Classics path. And this is the worst cover ever, but an amazing book. That is The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. Yes, I still vehemently hate this cover. Do not ever buy a Penguin clothbound. They are horrible. However, this is a fantastic epistolary novel. If you're doing Anne's Reading Classics Challenge and you want one of those bonus prompts for January, male protagonist. In fact, both these, male protagonist. This is a mystery. It is told entirely in journal entries. It was a sensationalized novel. It was fantastic. Intricate plot, memorable characters, fantastic villain, fantastic heroines, fantastic, just the entire cast of characters had depth to them and had, they were memorable. Even the character that appeared least on the page, but had such an impact on the story, you remember him because, well, without his actions, a lot of what happened wouldn't have happened. It was just fantastic. And the last classic, or the other classic, would be Dracula by Bram Stoker. Again, entirely epistolary. It is told in journal entries and gramophone recordings. It has a male protagonist, so it would fit that prompt. And I have a vlog for this one. I will link that vlog down below. As I say in the vlog, and I said in my review, Dracula was not what I expected it to be. It is nothing remotely like its depiction in modern day culture. If you are hesitant about Dracula because it deals with vampires, I will tell you that it was originally published in a page count totaling like 390 pages. I say this in my vlog. And of those 390 pages, Dracula is on 60 pages. He doesn't even show up for the overwhelming majority of the book. This is an amazing story, and I need to read more Stoker. Do not let the vampire and modern culture dissuade you from Dracula. It was a fantastic read. Okay, and now for the quote-unquote romance book. That would be Love in the Eternal City by Rebecca W. Martin. Catholic fiction. I loved this book. It's far more than a romance. It's got a little bit of everything. There is fantastic faith. There is incredible banter. There is a little bit of thriller, a little bit of romantic suspense put in. It's set in Rome. She has, while not the most in-depth character, there is depth to the character of Elena. All the people she meets in Rome. Just seriously, I absolutely adored this book. The humor, the story, the faith. I know Rebecca is finished the first draft of the second book, so I am eagerly anticipating that release, hopefully in 25. Just, drew me in. I think I read it in one day. It is funny, and there is some romantic suspense, and there is great faith. Just perfection. So those were my top books of 2024. And if you're going to ask me to choose an absolute favorite of that list, Yeah, it's gonna have to be Miss Graham's Cold War Cookbook. Well, all the other ones are either I've read more recently or were memorable. This one just becomes a part of you. Like it literally becomes a part of you. And I am very glad I stuck with it. I am very glad I read it. And I highly, highly recommend it. So. Okay. That was my 2024 reading wrap up, I guess. Did any of those choices surprise you? Leave a comment down below, like and subscribe, and I will see you here next time at the Protagonist Pub.